I'm Corraine and welcome back to my channel at Corraine Choo Realty. If you have been following me for a while, you'll know that my goal is always to empower you to understand how to analyze the projects and market, not just what to buy. And today's topic is a very exciting one, because we are looking at what could potentially be one of the most important launches in the East Coast Bayshore township in recent years, Vela Bay. In Singapore's real estate, the homes that give you the largest kind of gains are usually not made by focusing on the project alone. It's made by zooming out and looking at the bigger picture, understanding what the government is focusing on, where the population is shifting, and which precinct is about to undergo a major transformation. And this is exactly why Vela Bay is so interesting. You see, Bayshore is not just another random plot of land being sold off. This is a planned township, and if you have been in the market long enough, you'll start to recognize a specific pattern of wealth creation. Whenever the government decides to create a new township, they don't just launch one project and leave it there. They manufacture demand by building an entire ecosystem around it. They introduce MRT connectivity, they bring in BTOs, they plan for schools, they allocate space for parks, and sometimes even integrate commercial hubs. And when all of these elements come together, what you get is not just a place to stay. You get a place where demand is created naturally over time. If you look back, we have seen this happen before. We saw it in the Bidadari estate, and we saw it in the Upper Bukit Timah area. At the beginning, people always have doubts. They always feel that price is too high, or the area is not mature enough, or that it lacks status compared to more established districts. But fast forward a few years, and these same projects that people hesitated over become the new benchmark prices for the area. At that point in time, the Bidadari area wasn't seen as particularly prime. It was somewhere in between Potong Pasir and Bartley, not exactly a location people would immediately fight for. But remember the three-phase transformation: announcement, completion, infrastructure. What the government did for Bidadari was very deliberate. They introduced the MRT at Woodleigh, and then came the first major private development, Park Colonial, followed by Woodleigh Residences and Woodleigh Mall. Now, when Park Colonial was launched around 2018 to 2019, the prices were roughly in the range of about 1,700 to 1,800 per square foot. At that point in time, many buyers hesitated. They looked at the surrounding resale prices, they looked at the maturity of the area, and they questioned whether it made sense to pay that kind of price for a new township that had not been fully developed yet. But fast forward just a few years later, once the township started to take shape, the BTOs completed obtaining their MOP around 2022, and once the amenities were fully operational, what happened? We started seeing resale transactions for Park Colonial climbing to around 2,400 per square foot and beyond. This 4-bedroom unit was purchased at around 1,700 plus per square foot and later resold at approximately 2,500 per square foot, generating profits close to $1 million. Even 3-bedroom units were making at least $600,000 to $700,000 in gains. So, what changed? The project didn't change, but the township matured. The infrastructure was built and the population flowed in, creating demand. And those who entered early benefited from the entire growth cycle. Let us take a look at another example at the Bukit Timah area, specifically the Beauty World transformation. Upper Bukit Timah is undergoing a major transformation into a vibrant mixed-use and car-light hub, anchored by the Beauty World integrated transport hub and community building. The area will feature new residential launches, enhanced green corridors, and the redevelopment of Turf City into 15,000 to 20,000 new homes, balancing urban growth with heritage, including the repurposed former Bukit Timah Fire Station. If you remember, this area was once considered quite ulu. It wasn't a place people would immediately think of when it comes to premium property, but the government had a long-term vision for this area. They planned the integrated transport hub, enhanced connectivity through the downtown line, and reclaimed the railway corridor by exchanging 2 land parcels with Malaysia for dual residences and Marina One residences. And they laid out a very clear transformation blueprint under the master plan. And then, we started seeing new launches coming into the area. One of the earlier ones was Daintree Residences, followed by the integrated development, the reserve residences. When these projects were first introduced, the pricing once again faced resistance. Buyers were looking at around 1,600 to 1,700 per square foot for Daintree, and later 2,300 to 2,600 per square foot for the reserve residences, with prices even reaching 3,000 per square foot at launch. At that time, many people also questioned whether it makes sense. After all, the surrounding resale market was significantly lower, and the area didn't yet reflect that level of value. As the transformation started to materialize, as the infrastructure improved, and as the concept of an integrated hub became clearer, we began to see the impact on prices. Daintree Residences, for example, saw multiple transactions where owners were making profits in the range of about $450,000 to over $700,000, especially for larger units. And for the reserve residences, it has already set new benchmark prices in the area, with transactions crossing $3,000 per square foot. So once again, what is the pattern we are seeing here? It's not just about the project itself. It's about entering at the start of a transformation. It's about recognizing a government-backed growth area. And it's about being willing to step in when the market still has doubts. And this is the exact same mindset we are seeing today with Bayshore. If you look at the location of Vela Bay, one of the first things that should immediately stand out to you is its proximity to the MRT. It is literally sitting right next to Bayshore MRT on the Thomson-East Coast Line. And this is not a future MRT that we are waiting for. This is already completed and operational. That alone removes a huge amount of uncertainty. So what phase are we entering now for Bayshore? Yes, the infrastructure phase. And this is where things start to get interesting. If you look at the master plan, you'll notice that Vela Bay is not standing alone. Directly across, you have upcoming BTO developments like Bayshore Vista and Bayshore Palms. When the district reaches full maturity, the Bayshore estate is expected to accommodate approximately 10,000 homes, supported by a wide range of amenities designed to create a self-sustaining residential community. Around the area, you also have the linear park and the educational plot that is likely going to become a primary school. And if you move slightly further out, you'll notice plans for an integrated hub as well. What does all of this mean in simple terms? It means that over the next few years, you're going to see a steady inflow of population into Bayshore. And this is very important because private property prices don't just go up because of hype. They go up because there are people who have a need to buy, upgrade, and move within the ecosystem for their own stay. The BTOs that are being built today will eventually reach their MOP. And when that happens, a portion of those owners will eventually look to upgrade into private condominiums within the same area. And when they do, where do you think they will look? They will naturally look for the nearest, newest, and most attractive project available. And right now, that project is Vela Bay. Now, let's address something that has been circulating quite a bit, the history of Bayshore. Some people were concerned when they saw the clearing of greenery in the area, and there were discussions about deforestation. But what many don't realize is that this land was actually reclaimed between 1966 and 1985, and it was always intended for residential development. This was never meant to remain as untouched forest permanently. It was always part of a long-term plan. At the same time, the government is not ignoring environmental considerations. If you look closely at the master plan, you'll see that they have intentionally preserved green elements through linear parks and Bayshore Central Park. So what you're getting is not a concrete jungle. You're getting a carefully planned balance between urban living and nature. And in today's context, this is exactly what buyers are looking for. Now let's move on to the project itself, because this is where I think the development has done something quite smart. Vela Bay is being developed by Singhai Yi, a developer known for projects like Park Clementes and Grand Diamond. If you are familiar with their work, you will know that they have a very strong focus on lifestyle, resort-style living, strong landscaping, and facilities that go beyond the standard cookie cutters. For Vela Bay, they are taking it one step further with a very deliberate design choice, the V-shaped layout. At first glance, some people might find it unusual. Why not just build straight blocks like most developments? But once you understand the intention, it makes perfect sense. The entire purpose of this design is to maximize the number of units that get a sea view. And this is where Vela Bay differentiates itself significantly. Approximately 78% of the units, 14 out of 18 stacks, are expected to enjoy sea views. 70% or 3 out of 18 stacks are enjoying the landed view and 1 stack of the pool view. In most developments, only a small percentage of units actually enjoy the premium facing. And a very clear example of this would be Coastal Del Sol, where the developer tried their best to maximize the number of units with sea view. But because older developments where the focus was more on the density and maximizing the number of units, as a result, you have this whole chunk of units end up being obstructed. In contrast, what we are seeing for Vela Bay is a shift in design thinking, where the developer is more intentional about distributing premium facing using a V-shaped layout to maximize the number of units with sea views, which ultimately leads to a more balanced product, better living experience, and stronger value sustainability in the future. Because at the end of the day, what is the main selling point of the East Coast? It is the sea and the sea view facing. And this is something that cannot be replicated inland. You can build newer condos, you can renovate older ones, but you cannot recreate a genuine seafront experience. That is why properties along the first line, closest to the sea, have historically shown stronger resilience and appreciation. Now, let's talk about pricing, because I know this is where most of you will have questions. Based on current estimates, we are looking at the starting price of around 2,500 per square foot, with an average closer to 2,008 per square foot, and possibly exceeding 3,000 per square foot for certain units. On paper, this might feel high, especially when you compare it to some parts of the traditional East Coast like Tanjung Katong. But here's where I want to shift your perspective slightly. Not all properties in East Coast are equal. In fact, many developments in Katong are located several layers inland, where we sometimes refer to as third line, fourth line, or even fifth line from the sea. Vela Bay is on the first line. There is the development, East Coast Park, and then straight out to the sea. We are talking about zero obstructions. That kind of positioning is incredibly rare. And honestly, it puts this property in a completely different league when it comes to prestige. It is directly facing the coastline. When you're directly facing the coastline like this, the value isn't just in the view, it's in the scarcity. Beyond just a prime location, you're actually buying into a brand new growth cycle. We see this pattern play out in Singapore time and time again. Where a new township drops, the initial price tag almost always feels uncomfortable. It's natural to question if it makes sense. But the people who win are the ones who look past the noise and recognize the first mover advantage. Just look at the earlier example for Park Colonial in Bidadari. People were shocked at the 1,700 to 1,800 per square foot price point. Many thought it was considered too high for the area. But as the township matured and the vision became a reality, those who took the leap saw massive gains, with some units even hitting the $1 million profit mark. Similarly, in Upper Bukit Timah, projects like Daintree Residences and the Reserve Residences faced initial resistance because the area was perceived as less prime. Yet today, those early buyers have seen substantial gains as the transformation of the precinct took shape. And of course, if we look at the East Coast itself, developments like seaside residences have demonstrated the appeal of sea-facing units, with some owners achieving profits exceeding $1 million simply by holding on to the right stack. So when you look at Vela Bay, the question to ponder is, does it share similar characteristics? A new township, strong government backing, integrated planning, MRT connectivity, and the unique selling point of sea views. Now, even as a real estate salesperson, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that this is a guarantee win. The market is never 100% predictable. Anyone who tells you that is probably either selling you a dream or is not giving you the full picture. But what I can say is, based on experience and patterns that we have seen over the years, is that projects like these tend to reward those who are able to look beyond the short-term hesitation and focus on the long-term fundamentals. At the end of the day, the biggest mistake most buyers make is not that they chose the wrong property, it's that they hesitated at the wrong time. Most buyers get stuck comparing today to the past instead of understanding where the future is headed. And in Singapore, where land is limited and planning is structured, the future is very often already laid out for us. That is, if we take the time to understand it properly. So if you ask me whether Vela Bay is worth considering, my answer is this. If you're someone who values long-term growth, who understands the importance of entering early into a new township, and who appreciates the rarity of true seafront living, then this is definitely a project that deserves your attention. But of course, your strategy is unique to you. Your risk appetite and your goals are what matter most. Every decision has to be tailored to your own situation. This is the reason a proper discussion becomes very important, because the same project can be a great opportunity for one person but may not be the right fit for another. So if you want a clear, data-backed analysis of how this project or any other projects aligns with your long-term or short-term goals, feel free to reach out to me, Corraine, at 88-826-826 for a one-to-one consultation. Let's do a deep dive into your finances and situation to help you make your next property move with clarity and confidence. And if you have found this breakdown helpful, remember to like, share, and subscribe. I'll continue to bring you more insights like this so you can stay ahead of the market instead of reacting to it. I'll see you in the next video. Bye!